So looking at risk now, and this is the front of a really good board game. I definitely recommend that you play Risk once in your life, but actually me and my husband are banned from playing it because we're very competitive people and it always ends up in arguments. But yeah, good board game. But what we need to look at is what is risk. Well, what we need to look at, in case you wanted to pass your exams, is what is risk, and looking at the difference between risk and uncertainty, risks that are taken in business, who takes risk, and risk management. And I'll also look at a past paper question on this as well, the type of things you get. This does actually come into Unit 4 as well, because one of the first sections on Unit 4 is contingency plans, and usually when I teach this, I teach it with the Unit 4 part as well, because it makes more sense if you do them together. So have a look at the presentation. Haven't done it yet, but it will be appearing for contingency plans for Unit 4. But risk, remember when you did Unit 1 and you were looking at what entrepreneurs were, and entrepreneurs are people that take risks really to hopefully gain rewards. But just because you're taking a risk doesn't make you an entrepreneur. You need to be able to take calculated risks, and there are lots of risks that take place within businesses. So what is risk? Well, it's the possibility of something bad happening, basically. The possibility of incurring a loss or misfortune. And risks can be internal, so from within the business, or external, things happening outside of the business's control. So in the environment, again, your pestle factors: political, economic, environmental, social, technological, legal, ethical risks that could occur. Uncertainty is the state of being unsure about the outcome. So with risk, sometimes it's quite quantifiable. There might be a 50% chance that this terrible thing could occur, and I suppose you're uncertain that whether it will occur or not, but the uncertainty can also come from unquantifiable risks as well, where you're not too sure whether it will occur or not, and you might not be sure about what the outcome would be. You have a feeling that it wouldn't be good, but you're not too sure how bad it would actually be. So risk and uncertainty are two connected items, but slightly different. So as I've just said before, risk can be quantifiable, so that they can be measured, or unquantifiable. There's a famous quote actually. I'm going to Google this. Oh, am I still? Yeah, there we go. I'm going to Google this for you. So you're just out of shot there for Google, but there are known unknowns. Sorry, my slow typing here. Okay, so this is from Donald Rumsfeld, who was the Secretary of State. And he gave a speech in February 2002. I'm just going to copy that and copy it onto the presentation, because it's quite, not that one, getting ahead of myself. Here we go. So this is what he said. There are knowns, so things that you know. So for a business, it might be something that is going to happen, and what the impact on the business is going to be. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. So there are going to be a lot of those for businesses as well. So in terms of risks, so I suppose this one is the quantifiable risk. You might what the impact would be if it does happen. Here it's more unquantifiable, so there's a risk of it happening, but you don't know how bad it's going to be. And then here there are also unknown unknowns, the ones we don't know. So I know it seems like a bit of you know, like a bit of a riddle, and people did make fun of him when he did the speech because they said it didn't make sense, but it actually is quite logical, and so these are the things that are risks, but you're not even aware of the risks, so they're unknown unknowns, so you don't even know that something kind of risky could happen. But that's a nice kind of way to think about some of the risks that occur. So things that are very measurable, quantifiable, things that are unquantifiable, and then there are the risks that you're not even aware about, and that's where that phrase "ignorance is bliss," I suppose, comes from. Or references. And risks, you sometimes get kind of systemic risks, so they're associated with the environment, or specific risks associated with a particular product. I wouldn't focus on those too much, but more the quantifiable and unquantifiable risks. Okay, so you've got these risks. Right, how do you deal with it? Well, you've got risk management, and this is a process where you identify risk and then you try and develop ideas to mitigate, great word, meaning decreasing the probability of the risk occurring. So types of risk management, I do go into more detail when we look at contingency plans with Unit 4, but contingency plans, so this is like plan B. What do we do if everything goes belly up, really? How do we deal with this? You could do a risk assessment as well. This is assessing or calculating how likely something is to occur, and trying to put in measures, steps in place that reduces the risk of it occurring. So a simple risk assessment that you might do is an occupational health report. So someone might check your workstation and make sure that the seat's at right height for your posture, and that your screen isn't going to cause you eye problems and things like that. So it's to try and the risk that they're looking for is the risk that you're going to make yourself ill through work, and they're trying to reduce or mitigate the risk of that happening. Strategic planning as well. So doing SWOT analysis, to assess the threats and the opportunities, and maybe come up with a strategy to deal with those things. HR policies can reduce the risk of people basically misbehaving, misconduct, so that you get people to be aware of what's expected of them, to sign, and also so that you can maybe get rid of them when they break those policies. And then you might have financial controls as well, and this would be with things like budgets, so that you can't just go out and spend £1 million on a corporate credit card. Things that need to be purchased that are above a certain amount have to be signed off by 2 or 3 people. Those types of things would be checks that can reduce the risk of somebody running off with your money, I suppose. Now, the benefit is that hopefully you can identify risk, and then you can put in place actions to stop the risk from occurring. Or if the risk is going to occur, you're going to be able to deal with it. So, for example, a fire drill is a practice of a contingency plan, because plan A is that your building doesn't set on fire, but plan B is that everybody gets out if it does set on fire. So, that would be a contingency plan. But you do have to consider the cost. So, what is the cost of the risk occurring? There might be a risk of something bad happening, but if it does happen, it's only going to cost £100 to rectify, and you think, well, might as well take the hit. So, an example of this would be security software in a shop that maybe doesn't sell high value items. So I've noticed in Poundland, or I don't know, any pound shop, they sometimes have that cardboard cutout of a policeman or policewoman in the shop window, and I always pass it, and I have to do a double take, because at first I do think it is a real policeman or policewoman, and then I think, oh no, it's a cardboard cutout, and I think, oh, who's fooled by that? But probably what they're thinking is, yeah, sometimes some people do steal from pound shops, but the cost of getting security and installing lots of cameras is which is number 3, is actually more than actually if the cost of people stealing from us, the small number of people that do steal from us. So these are types of things you have to consider. How much, not every risk something bad happens, it's always bad, but not every bad thing is as, you know, as bad as each other. It's me that's not making sense now. But the other thing to consider is how likely is it to occur. So there could be something that's really, actually, a really serious risk, and if it occurs, it's going to cause £1 billion worth of damage. But the risk of it occurring is, the chances even of it occurring are so minimal. It's like 1 in a trillion chance of it occurring. So, you know, in that case, it wouldn't really seem logical to try and reduce that risk. Okay, so this is your past paper question. So explain the ways in which Kingfisher PLC might manage the quantifiable and unquantifiable risks that face the company. 10 marks. So first, as I've said before in other presentations, find the section of the case study this relates to. So here we go, section of the case study, risks. And all I would do is work your way through a few of these. It's only a 10-mark question, so you probably don't want to do all 7 of these, and come up with sensible suggestions of how to reduce these risks. So this is talking about B&Q, this company Kingfisher that own B&Q, and it says its Chinese business might fail to deliver the desired return. So if we're thinking back of types of risk management, well, you might want to do a risk assessment on that. You might want to do some strategic planning, some SWOT analysis to make sure that it is the right move for you. But also you might want to try and reduce the risk, and this would fall under strategic planning again, by making sure that you don't concentrate all of your businesses into the Chinese market. So you'd work your way through a few of these, pick the ones that you find easiest to explain methods to mitigate risks and reduce the harmful effect if that risk does occur of happening. But definitely have a look at this past paper. There was another past paper as well with a question on risks in, I think that came out a little bit before this Kingfisher one, which would have been Kingfisher one was January 2013. So have a look through some past papers. Maybe it was 2011 or something that they asked another question about risk.